What if the real reason your belly fat won't go away has nothing to do with sugar and nothing to do with carbs? Millions of people over 60 are cutting bread, avoiding rice, skipping dessert, and still watching their waistline grow wider every year. The dangerous part? That belly fat isn't just making your clothes tighter, it's silently forcing your body to store even more fat no matter how healthy you try to eat. Researchers now reveal that stubborn abdominal fat is actually controlled by a hidden trigger inside your body, and when this switch is stuck in the on position, your liver begins trapping fat around your organs, your metabolism slows down, and even strict dieting stops working. This can happen even if you rarely eat sugar. The surprising truth? You might be accidentally activating this belly fat switch every single day through healthy habits you were told to follow. And once it's triggered, you can't burn fat effectively until you shut it off. In this video, you'll discover the real belly fat cause and the simple reset anyone over 60 can start today without starving, counting calories, or quitting carbs. Before we begin, comment your age and where you were watching from, and subscribe for more science-based health tips. Most people are shocked when they find out that the real driver of stubborn belly fat has nothing to do with how much sugar or bread they eat, but rather with a powerful hormone that is silently controlling their metabolism every single minute. This hormone is called insulin, and instead of being just a blood sugar hormone, it acts as your body's fat storage switch. When insulin stays high for too long, it becomes almost impossible to burn stored fat for energy, especially the fat packed around the belly, liver, and internal organs. You could be eating healthy foods, avoiding desserts, exercising daily, and still gaining fat around the waist because your cells are stuck in fat-storing mode. People over 60 are at even greater risk because aging naturally makes the body less sensitive to insulin, meaning the same foods that caused no issues in your 40 seconds suddenly start forcing your body to store fat instead of burning it. Here's the surprising problem. Most people are unknowingly triggering constant insulin spikes through everyday habits that they assume are healthy. For example, eating small meals every 2 to 3 hours might sound like a smart idea because you are keeping your metabolism active, but every meal, even a tiny snack, causes insulin to rise. So if you graze all day, you never give your body a break from insulin. That means your metabolism spends the entire day storing fat instead of burning it. Even foods that are marketed as healthy, like whole grain crackers, low-fat yogurt, granola bars, breakfast cereals, or fruit juice, can spike insulin just as much as sugary snacks. The mistake is not just eating sugar, it's eating too frequently and relying on foods that turn into glucose very quickly, like refined grains and low-fat products. Another hidden cause is stress. People rarely connect stress to belly fat, but the relationship is direct and scientifically proven. When you're stressed, whether emotionally, mentally, or physically, your adrenal glands release cortisol, a stress hormone that raises glucose in your bloodstream. Why? Because your body thinks you're facing danger, so it prepares to give you fast energy to escape. That glucose spike forces your pancreas to release insulin. So even if you haven't eaten anything, chronic stress keeps insulin high. Many adults over 60 live under high stress due to health concerns, medications, loneliness, financial pressure, or lack of proper sleep. Combine stress with frequent snacking, and your abdomen becomes the perfect environment for storing fat. It's not your fault. Your body is simply protecting you based on ancient survival programming. Another factor people overlook is the myth of low-fat diets. For decades, doctors and food companies told everyone to avoid fat to prevent heart disease and lose weight. But when fat is removed from food, manufacturers replace it with sugar and starch to make it taste good. That shift led to an explosion of low-fat products that actually spike insulin dramatically. Bread, pasta, crackers, cereal, potatoes, and rice turn quickly into glucose in your body. And because you're eating them without healthy fats, your blood sugar rises even faster, pushing insulin higher than it should be. Ironically, eating fat doesn't raise insulin much at all, but eating starchy, low-fat foods does. This is why people who eat low-fat diets often fail to lose belly fat. They are unknowingly raising insulin all day long. Plus, there's another piece most people never hear. If you eat late at night, your insulin stays elevated while you sleep. When insulin is up, your body cannot burn fat. So instead of your body using stored fat for energy overnight, it stores even more fat. That's why people wake up bloated, heavy, and tired even if they barely ate dinner. Aging makes nighttime insulin problems even worse because your metabolism slows and you process carbohydrates less efficiently as you grow older. This leads to more fat trapped inside the liver. When the liver becomes overloaded with fat, it starts leaking fat into the bloodstream, which ends up around your belly and organs. That cycle becomes a trap where more belly fat creates more insulin resistance, and more resistance creates more belly fat. To make matters worse, most people think that simply exercising more will solve the problem. But exercise alone cannot lower insulin enough to unlock fat burning. You could walk, jog, lift weights, or do cardio every day and still not lose belly fat if insulin stays high. Many people over 60 work out consistently and yet don't see results, and they mistakenly believe something is wrong with their metabolism. The truth is their body is working perfectly. It's just operating under the rules that insulin sets. You cannot burn fat if insulin is elevated, no matter how hard you exercise. That's why many people experience a sudden slowdown in weight loss. After age 50, insulin resistance has been building for decades, and only now has it crossed the threshold where it becomes noticeable. So the real root cause of belly fat is not sugar alone, not calories, not carbs, not metabolism slowing down due to age, and not lack of exercise. It's the constant triggering of insulin through frequent eating, hidden refined carbohydrates, chronic stress, late-night meals, and misguided low-fat diets. Once insulin is chronically high, your belly becomes a storage warehouse. Until you lower insulin, nothing else will work. Not keto, not calorie cutting, not exercise, not dieting. But here's the good news. The switch can be turned off. The body can become insulin sensitive again. You can teach your metabolism to burn stored fat, even if you're over 60, even if you've struggled for decades, and even without eliminating carbs forever. The next part will reveal how. When you finally understand that insulin, not calories or carbs alone, is the real driver of stubborn belly fat, the solution becomes much clearer. Instead of focusing on eating less or exercising more, the key is to train your body to naturally lower insulin so that it can unlock stored fat for energy. This doesn't require starving yourself, counting calories, or cutting out all the foods you love. In fact, forcing yourself to eat less can backfire because severe calorie restriction signals to your body that food is scarce, slowing metabolism and increasing cravings. The goal is not to eat less, but to eat in a way that keeps insulin low for longer periods. When insulin drops, your body switches from store fat mode to burn fat mode. The most powerful tool for this shift isn't expensive supplements, complicated diets, or grueling workouts. It's simply giving your body a break from constant insulin spikes. To do this, the first major change is to reduce how often you eat. Not necessarily what you eat, but how frequently. If you're used to eating breakfast, a mid-morning snack, lunch, an afternoon snack, dinner, and maybe something before bed, that's at least 5 to 6 insulin spikes per day. Your body never gets the chance to tap into stored fat. Instead, you continue storing more of it. By gradually reducing the number of meals you eat, your bloodstream gets longer periods without insulin spikes, and your body naturally begins to burn fat. You don't have to jump immediately into long fasting windows. You can simply start by cutting out snacks. If you eat breakfast, skip the mid-morning snack and just wait until lunch. With time, as your hunger decreases due to insulin stabilizing, you can shift breakfast later or make it smaller. Eventually, many people find they don't even need breakfast because their bodies have adapted to burn fat for energy instead of demanding constant glucose. Another essential step is to eat foods that don't spike insulin rapidly. The mistake most people make is focusing only on sugar while ignoring starches that break down into sugar just as quickly. Foods like cereal, oatmeal with fruit, pancakes, toast, pasta, rice, potatoes, crackers, and even low-fat yogurt can keep insulin high. Instead of feeding your body a constant stream of glucose, it's smarter to choose meals rich in protein, healthy fats, and fiber. Eggs cooked in olive oil, salmon with vegetables, avocado, nuts, chia seeds, cottage cheese, chicken thighs, olives, and Greek yogurt with no added sugar are just a few examples of meals that keep insulin stable. You don't need to go extreme or strict. Just slowly replace carb-heavy without fat meals with balanced meals that include protein and healthy fat. Fat doesn't raise insulin significantly, and when you pair it with protein and fiber, it slows down digestion, giving your body a more stable energy release. That prevents spikes and crashes, reduces cravings, and keeps you full longer. You naturally end up eating less without forcing yourself. Managing stress is another critical piece that people tend to ignore. Even if you eat perfectly, chronic stress can make belly fat impossible to lose because cortisol keeps raising glucose levels. And insulin is forced to come in and lower that glucose, pushing you back into fat storage mode. The stress doesn't need to be dramatic. Even loneliness, anxiety about health, lack of movement, and poor sleep can keep cortisol chronically elevated. One of the simplest ways to lower cortisol is deep abdominal breathing, which tells your nervous system to calm down. Another method is daily exposure to sunlight, even for just 10 to 15 minutes, which helps regulate cortisol rhythms. Evening routines that reduce stimulation, like lowering screen time, gentle stretching, or drinking herbal tea, can also help the body shift into relaxation. It's not about eliminating stress, but training your body to handle it without constantly activating the stress hormones that elevate insulin. Sleep plays a major role as well. When you don't sleep well, your body automatically produces more cortisol the next day. Poor sleep makes you crave carbohydrates, stimulates hunger hormones, and blunts insulin sensitivity. That's why people who sleep less tend to gain more belly fat, even if their diets don't change. A simple shift, like avoiding late-night meals, staying off screens before bed, or eating your last meal 3 hours before sleep, can dramatically improve your sleep quality and reduce morning hunger. When you rest properly, your body naturally keeps insulin lower throughout the day. Finally, it's time to address one more misconception. Exercise is not meant to burn calories, it's meant to improve insulin sensitivity. If you use exercise only to burn calories, you will constantly feel like you're working hard but seeing nothing change. The real value of movement is that it teaches your body to use glucose efficiently and respond better to insulin. Short walks after meals, slow strength training, and light stretching have been shown to improve insulin far more effectively than long sessions of chronic cardio. You don't need to exhaust yourself, you just need to move consistently and build muscle, which acts like a sponge that absorbs glucose from the bloodstream without needing insulin. That means more muscle equals less insulin, and less insulin equals less belly fat. So the secret is not calorie cutting, extreme dieting, or blaming sugar alone. The secret is training your metabolism to relax, burn stored fat, and stop being driven by constant insulin. By eating fewer times per day, choosing foods that stabilize insulin, managing stress, improving sleep, and using exercise to boost insulin sensitivity instead of just burning calories, your body regains the ability to burn belly fat. And the best part, you don't have to starve, suffer, or give up carbs forever. Once insulin is lower and your body becomes more efficient, you can enjoy a healthy variety of foods without storing them as fat. In the next section, we'll reveal simple meal strategies and daily habits that help people over 60 lower insulin quickly and permanently. Now that you understand how insulin traps fat around your belly and how the body can be trained to lower it naturally, the next step is learning exactly how to build meals and daily habits that help keep insulin low without forcing you to starve, give up your favorite foods, or follow strict dieting rules. The key is to design a routine that feels natural and enjoyable so your body willingly shifts into fat-burning mode rather than fighting you. The first step is adjusting what you eat at your first meal of the day. Whether you eat breakfast immediately in the morning or wait until later, that first meal sets the tone for the entire day. If your first meal is high in carbohydrates, such as cereal, fruit juice, toast, pancakes, oatmeal with bananas, smoothies loaded with fruit, or low-fat yogurt, your insulin spikes right away. This sets off a roller coaster of hunger throughout the day because you will crash later and crave more glucose to push energy back up. Instead, your first meal should emphasize protein and fat, with only small amounts of carbs. Foods like eggs cooked in olive oil or butter, Greek yogurt with nuts, chia seed pudding with unsweetened milk, smoked salmon with avocado, cheese and olives, cottage cheese with berries, or even leftovers from the previous night's dinner stabilize insulin and provide slow, steady energy. This alone reduces cravings and helps you naturally avoid snacking. When you start your day with stable insulin, your body is more likely to burn fat as you go about daily activities. The next strategy is portioning carbohydrates in a smarter way rather than eliminating them completely. The human body does not need to avoid carbs forever. It only needs to eat them in the right amounts and at the right times. Carbs become a problem only when they are eaten alone or too frequently. When carbs are paired with protein and healthy fat, they digest slower, and your blood sugar does not rise as quickly. For example, if you want potatoes, eat them with butter or olive oil and protein like chicken or fish. If you enjoy rice, try pairing it with eggs, avocado, or beef. Instead of eating fruit alone as a snack, eat it at the end of a meal with nuts or yogurt. If you like bread, choose whole grain or sourdough and combine it with cheese, eggs, nut butter, or olive oil instead of sugary spreads. The fat acts like a buffer, slowing down how fast the carbohydrate breaks down into glucose. This prevents large insulin spikes while still letting you enjoy familiar foods. Another trick is choosing carbs with fiber, such as vegetables, beans, quinoa, berries, apples, or pears, because fiber slows digestion naturally and helps the body absorb glucose gradually. Next, begin reducing the eating window without focusing on extreme fasting. A simple 3-meal approach without snacks is one of the easiest and most effective ways to reduce insulin. If 3 meals feel like too much, start with just eliminating one snack. For example, if you normally eat something before bed, stop there first. Later, you can combine breakfast and lunch into a single later meal if your hunger naturally reduces. Instead of telling your body you cannot eat, allow hunger to fade naturally by eating meals that keep you full. Many people over 60 are surprised at how quickly their body adapts once their meals stop causing insulin spikes. After a week or two, they wake up with less hunger, fewer cravings, and more stable energy. That means insulin is stabilizing, which is exactly what we want. Just as important is avoiding late-night eating. Eating before bed is one of the biggest habits that keep belly fat locked in place. At night, your body is supposed to clear toxins, repair cells, regenerate the brain, and burn stored fat for energy. But when you eat before sleep, insulin rises and blocks fat burning, forcing your body to store fat instead. A good rule is to finish eating at least 3 hours before sleep. If that is difficult at first, begin by shortening the gap gradually. Even 1 hour can make a noticeable difference. In just a week, sleep improves, inflammation drops, and energy starts rising. Healthy fat must be included in your meals to balance insulin. For decades, people were wrongly taught to fear fat, especially saturated fat. But healthy fats from olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, nuts, seeds, ghee, grass-fed butter, sardines, salmon, cheese, and eggs not only help control insulin, but they also reduce hunger and stabilize mood. When people start eating more healthy fats, they often think they are eating more calories, but they end up eating fewer total calories because fats keep them full longer and eliminate cravings. Healthy fat tells the brain we are nourished, we don't need more food, while carbs without fat tell the brain we need more glucose soon. Movement after meals is another powerful method for reducing insulin quickly. You don't have to exercise intensely. Even a slow 10-minute walk after eating can lower glucose levels because your muscles absorb glucose directly for fuel. This allows insulin to stay lower. You don't need to treat exercise as punishment or calorie burning. Treat it as a tool that helps your metabolism regulate itself. Short walks after meals, stretching, gardening, bodyweight exercises, or light strength training twice a week makes a big difference because muscle tissue becomes a storage tank for glucose, lowering insulin long-term. When you consistently eat fewer times per day, choose balanced meals, reduce late-night eating, increase healthy fats, and move after meals, your insulin gradually resets. You eat normally, you don't crash after meals, you don't feel the need to snack, and your body finally begins to burn belly fat instead of storing it. In the final section, we'll reveal how to maintain these habits sustainably, enjoy treats without gaining fat, and create lifelong belly fat control without dieting ever again. Once your insulin begins to stabilize and your body learns to burn stored fat instead of demanding constant glucose, the final step is maintaining these habits long-term without feeling restricted or overwhelmed. Many people fail at weight loss not because they lack willpower, but because they follow short-term diets that require strict rules, eliminate entire food groups, or make eating stressful. The key to lasting belly fat control is creating a lifestyle where insulin remains stable most of the time while still allowing room for flexibility. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep your body in a low insulin state often enough that fat burning becomes your natural metabolic state instead of fat storage. When these habits become consistent, your body adapts and begins to crave less sugar, hunger normalizes, mood stabilizes, and the belly slowly shrinks without effort. The first part of sustaining this lifestyle is learning how to enjoy treats without triggering constant insulin spikes. You don't need to cut out desserts forever, you just need to eat them strategically. Instead of eating sweets on an empty stomach or between meals, enjoy them occasionally after a meal that contains protein and fat. When dessert is part of a balanced meal instead of a snack, glucose rises more slowly, insulin doesn't spike as aggressively, and cravings stay under control. You can also choose indulgences that aren't pure sugar. Dark chocolate, fruit with nuts, yogurt with berries, chia pudding, or small portions of naturally sweet foods are all great options. The key is limiting frequency, not banning enjoyment. If you simply avoid snacking and eat sweets at the end of meals, you'll notice you still lose belly fat even while enjoying treats occasionally. The next part of maintenance is flexibility with eating windows. Once your body adapts, you don't need to strictly force fasting hours every day. Some days you may eat 2 meals, other days you may eat 3. You might have breakfast on special mornings or skip it naturally on days you don't feel hungry. The point is to listen to your body instead of pushing yourself into rigid patterns. If you eat 3 meals one day, simply avoid snacks and finish eating earlier in the evening. If you eat 2 meals, make them satisfying with healthy fats and protein. Once cravings disappear, you'll find that fasting happens naturally because your body is using stored fat for energy instead of relying on constant glucose. This flexibility keeps fasting sustainable, comfortable, and pleasant, rather than stressful or obsessive. A sustainable lifestyle also requires learning to eat out without worrying about gaining fat. When you go to a restaurant, you don't need to panic about carbs, you only need to balance your meal. Choose something with protein and fat like steak, fish, eggs, chicken thighs, or lamb, and if you eat carbs like bread, potatoes, or rice, pair them with butter, cheese, olive oil, avocado, nuts, or cream sauces. Skip sugary drinks, avoid snacking on bread before your meal, and don't eat late at night. If you want dessert, share it or eat a small amount after your meal instead of ordering a separate sugary drink like soda or juice. Restaurants don't need to be avoided, you just need to eat like someone who understands how insulin works. Another important part of long-term success is maintaining stress and sleep patterns. Even if you eat perfectly, chronic stress or poor sleep can raise cortisol, which raises insulin and belly fat. You don't need complicated stress routines, but you do need daily practices that signal safety to your nervous system. Morning sunlight, deep breathing, evening walks, prayer or meditation, spending time with loved ones, gardening, light stretching, listening to calming music, or reading before bed are simple ways to lower cortisol. When cortisol is balanced, insulin becomes easier to control and your appetite becomes more natural. Likewise, prioritizing sleep by reducing screens in the evening, avoiding large meals late at night, and keeping your room cool and dark will support your hormones and fat loss without effort. Finally, movement becomes a tool for life, not punishment. You don't need intense workouts unless you enjoy them. Think of movement as medicine for insulin. A 10 to 20-minute walk after meals, strength training twice a week, stretching, yoga, dancing, gardening, and housework all reduce insulin resistance. What matters most is muscle activity, not athletic intensity. As you age, building or maintaining muscle is one of the most powerful ways to control belly fat long-term. Because muscles act like glucose sponges. The more muscle you have, the more carbohydrates your body can handle without raising insulin much. This is why people who maintain muscle can enjoy more food without gaining fat. With time, you'll notice powerful changes. Smaller meals satisfy you. Cravings disappear. Emotional eating weakens. hunger becomes predictable, sleep improves, and your belly gradually shrinks without strict dieting. Your body becomes efficient at using fat as fuel. Instead of relying on discipline, your lifestyle flows naturally because your biology supports it. Permanent fat loss never comes from restriction. It comes from understanding your metabolism and working with it instead of fighting against it. In the end, the real cause of belly fat was never sugar alone, carbs alone, slow metabolism, aging, or lack of exercise. The real cause was chronic insulin elevation caused by frequent eating, the wrong food combinations, stress, late-night meals, and misguided low-fat dieting. And the solution is not starvation or punishment, it's eating in a way that stabilizes insulin, honors hunger, balances hormones, and allows your body to burn fat naturally. When you follow these principles, you never need a diet again. Your body becomes your ally, your meals become your medicine, and your waistline becomes a reflection of metabolic balance, not deprivation.